real success stories told by the people who lived them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the hit streak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hit Streak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and in the Hit Lab with me today, I got an extra special treat for you. I've got, proud to call him a friend. We've been knowing each other for about a decade now, folks. Check it out. I got the COO of MVP Poker and the founder and president of Right Way Health Coverage, Josiah Graves. What's happening, brother?
What's going on, man? Super excited to be here. It's like, I feel like we go back like a lifetime. At this point. We know each other a long time. It's good to be back together.
That's right. That's right. Well, we've got to do a lot of cool things together. We have we've almost traveled like the western side of the world together with our families through all the insurance stuff that we did together. Dude, I'm really excited to have you on today. We got a lot to talk about, especially this it's new to me, this project MVP Poker. I want to hear all about it, right?
Yeah, man. I'm super excited to be here. I'll tell you everything you want to know.
Well, let's just get into it, man. So talk to me about, so I met you in the insurance space. We've both gone off and we've leveraged that platform to continue to serve and grow, but also to do some other things. Talk to me about what is MVP Poker?
Yeah, so MVP Poker is a new online poker platform. So you can go and play poker online. Obviously, there's a few of those that already exist, but the difference is our platform is completely live dealers, live cards, and real players. And when I say real players, I mean there can't be any bots because all of our players are required to be on webcam. We literally will not let you play without a webcam. So there's no RNGs, no computer number generators that are quote-unquote randomly dealing the cards, those types of things, right? So it's like a live poker experience, but you can play from anywhere with an internet connection, and it's the only thing that exists like that.
So it's a more secure and professional environment. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting, right?
Yeah. So our tagline is where integrity plays, and everything that we do is to protect the integrity of your game, right? So there's no room for bots. There's no room for any kind of cheating, right? Like with an RNG, somebody can hack that, right? Gotcha. It's computer code. We use physical deckmate shufflers that shuffle the cards, right? And they're not hooked up to the internet or hooked up to anything. So that can't be hacked, right? So the cards are getting shuffled truly randomly, right? They're getting dealt by a live dealer. And you know that all of the players that you're playing against are real humans because you can see them.
Well, with all the stuff you've heard about, like with AI, for a while now, but especially with the chat stuff from Google that just came out here recently, there is we can all agree that AI is outwork us if it isn't smarter, which it technically is, right? So I wouldn't want to play against a computer.
No, absolutely. And another thing you wouldn't want to do is you wouldn't want to play against somebody that their screen name is Joe Schmo, but that's actually one of like the fourth best poker player in the world, and you don't even know it, right? Because they're using somebody else's account.
Man,
yeah, that stuff can't happen on our platform.
Gotcha. So that is happening, like aliases, and there's issues with identity and all kinds of stuff, huh?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And bots. You could program a bot to sit there and. You could program a bot to sit there for 24 hours a day and only play pocket aces and pocket kings. Like no human has the attention span or the patience to do that, right? But you could totally program a bot to do that. So stuff like that happens. And, these are as people who love the game of poker and want to protect the integrity and the purity of the actual game of skill that we love. Yeah. We wanted to set out to fix all of those problems.
Well, dude, like I got one question that didn't know I was going to ask. Like, so first of all, MVP Poker might be the best name I've ever heard of any any poker league or anything around. Like, did you guys have to buy that, or did like somehow it was just one of those unicorns that was magically still available?
So you talking about like the domain name?
All of it. Yeah. Like MVP Poker. It's beautiful. The logo on the shirt, everything. It's brilliant. I love it.
Yeah, thanks. So, so first off, MVP Poker was founded by two very good friends of mine, Dane Coates and Dustin Meadows. Those are the original two guys that dreamed this up, and they really started dreaming this, I think it's at least 15, maybe even 20 years ago.
Okay.
Right? Long before I knew either of them. And then they started actually acting on going through the early stages of building this thing, right? Probably about 4 years ago, right? And then last year it was to the point where they were ready to do a funding round and actually start building it, right? So they already had the logo designed, prior to when I ever came on here. And I agree, I love the logo, and I've done a ton of graphic design stuff and video work with that logo. MVP, I don't know the story behind how they settled on the name, but agree with you. Like, it was so clean and it was so great that none of us ever said, I think maybe we should change the name. It just made sense. It rolls off the tongue. The logo looks great. It's awesome. So yeah, couldn't agree with you more there. But the domain, we were originally MVPpoker.net.
Okay.
Because it was one of those things where one of those firms that buys domains and that people are likely to want.
Yeah.
And then they sell them for like a super inflated price.
Yeah. It's real estate.
Yeah.
Baby.
So MVPpoker.com was owned by one of those firms, and they wanted $7,500 for it. So early on, we were like, all right, well, we'll just do .net. And then it was 3 or 4 months ago, we went through a whole thing where it was like, I really think we needed .com, but we were super tight on cash. It was like, should we buy it? Should we not buy it? And, one of the co-founders ended up just making the executive decision to just go buy it. Of course, we're glad we did now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, $7,500 just for a .com. Like, that feels steep, but
yeah.
We're glad we have it now.
I agree. I think it was a great decision.
Yeah.
And, but again, it's just another form of real estate, and it's digital real estate. And,
True.
If you don't own a bunch of URLs, folks, if you haven't bought your name, .com, you need to. I own like all my kids, my wife, everything. As soon as our daughter was born almost 2 years ago, that was one of the first things I did is bought her URL, right?
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you never know when you might need it, and I'd hate to buy my name from somebody else.
No kidding, man. And as soon as they get wind, right, that's their whole business model.
That's right.
As soon as they get wind, then it might turn into something, they'll buy it for $2 and sell it back to you for $10,000. It's a thing.
Well, so let's take the folks back on how you got here, man. Because first of all, how did you get into this? So I know you knew the founders,
yeah.
But how did you get brought into it? Because I mean, you've been killing life for the last decade with me in the insurance space, right? We've been doing it side by side. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. So it's kind of a crazy story. It's when you look back on something, you're like, that was just a God thing. It's got God's fingerprints all over it. There's no way that I could have planned that. That's exactly how this happened. So back at the beginning of last year, I was in the insurance business. I was the same thing that you are. I was a satellite division, had an office, and had a team of about 20 agents in Franklin. And obviously had a passion for that business. You don't stay in a business for 10 years that you're not passionate about.
That's right.
So love that business. And my wife was pregnant with our fourth child, and we had definitely decided this was our last one.
What causes that, right?
Yeah. That must be why she don't want to do it. I'm just kidding. So, but yes, we are well aware of what causes that. We had 3 other kids, right? Mm-hmm. So, definitely practiced at that. So, pregnant with our fourth child, and we both had a complete peace saying, that this is definitely our last one, right? This is definitely going to put the cherry on the family here and closing up shop. So she's pregnant with our final child, and I started feeling that pull to go into a different season of life. I was like, I had missed a lot of time with my family during the decade that I've been building that insurance career. Yeah. My second child, Asen, I barely remember any of when he was a baby, which is hard. It's hard to look back and realize, that you sacrificed that much for what you were doing at the time. And I was like, this is our last one. I don't want to do that again. I want to soak this up. So all of that led to a lot of thought and prayer about me retiring. And ultimately in June, when Atlas was born, I sent an email to my division and my region. I said, guys, I'm retiring, having a baby, want to spend all the time with my family that I possibly can. It's just time for a new season of life. And
Gotcha.
you've said on here before, I don't quit things, I just finish things.
That's right.
And I had such a peace about that I was just finished with that season, right? I didn't feel like I was quitting anything. I was just clearly, peacefully finished with that season. And when I sent that email, I didn't have any angst, any regret, and I haven't a single day since. So I knew I was doing the right thing. If you have peace, you're doing the right thing.
Gotcha.
So retired, and the next 3 months were just complete heaven. I spent all my time with the baby, with the family. My other son, Asen, likes to play golf. We were playing golf together 2-3 times a week.
That's awesome.
Things that I'd never been able to do before because I was working all the time.
Right.
Just living this whole, and of course my wife, it's her dream life.
Yeah.
Right. She's like, this is all I've ever wanted, is for you to be home and just be here and be present all the time. And it was awesome. So that went on for about 3 months. And then Dane, one of the co-founders of MVP, and myself were at a concert late summer. And he stepped off to the side to take a phone call, and he came back over to me after that phone call kind of dejected. And I was like, hey, I'm not trying to be nosy or anything, but is everything all right? Because he was way down the tone scale at that point. Something definitely happened on that call. And he was like, yeah, man, everything will be okay. He's like, we just had to let our VP of Ops go. It's just not, things aren't working out there. And we finally had to kind of rip that Band-Aid off. And I was like, oh, well, that sucks, man, but I'm sure you already have somebody lined up in your mind that'll be perfect for that job. And you bring him in, and, it'll be business as usual. Everything will be okay. I was just trying to give him that pat on the back. That's it.
Yep.
And so we finished the concert out and went home, and then, we're the type of best friends that talk 3 times a day about, everything. So the very next morning we were on the phone about something else, and I was just still trying to lift his spirits a little bit, make him laugh. And I was like, so I know last night that wasn't an official job offer, but I accept. And he laughed. He laughed, and then, but then he kind of stopped short. He was like, well, actually, man, you were the first person that I thought of. But he said, I wasn't even going to bring it up with you because I know you just had a baby 3 months ago and you just retired. And, I figured you guys would be like, yeah, there's no way that we're at the point in our lives where we're going to do something like that. Right. And I was like, yeah, I was just kidding. Like, you're right. Definitely not the best timing or anything, for me right now. And so, we just went on, and neither of us thought anything else about it. And the opportunity kept nagging at me. When you're trying to fall asleep at night and you're staring at the ceiling, every now and then there's that one thing that'll keep you awake.
Yeah.
That became that one thing for me.
Gotcha.
That was, it was really nagging at me, really pulling on me, way more than I expected it to. And it started to drive me nuts. And it drove me nuts enough that I finally got the courage up to go and talk to my wife about it. And her response was exactly what I thought it was going to be. Hell no, absolutely not. No, we've just got you back. You've been here for 3 months.
Yeah.
We're living our dream life with you, and you are not moving to Costa Rica, right? By the way, the operations were in Costa Rica. So that was just something that naturally went along with the position. So my wife is the opposite of me, right? I'm the entrepreneurial risk taker. She's the security, doesn't like change, those types of things. So, which is usually a good thing, as you balance each other out.
Absolutely.
But I knew that wasn't going to be the last conversation we had about it. So we went and talked about it multiple times over the next several weeks. And she started to realize that not only was I serious about it, but that it meant a lot to me. And those are her words. She said that to me on a date one night. She was like, I can tell it means a lot to you, and the fact that she saw that, I really appreciated. And so we started getting more serious about what it would look like and everything. And then they were interviewing 5 or 6 candidates, including me, for the position. So it went through about a month-long interview process. Long story short, at the end of that process, they called me and they were like, you're the last man standing. You're the guy we want. So if you accept, let's do it. Can you be in Costa Rica in 2 weeks? And I was like, I'll figure it out.
There you go.
So September 12th, I left for Costa Rica. And so I've been down there for a little over 6 months now.
Man.
This visit right here is only the 3rd time I've been back since then. So I've been down there for 6 months. I came back for Asen's birthday in October. I came back for Christmas. And then I came back this week because my 90 days in the country was almost up.
Gotcha.
So those are the 3 times I've seen my family in the last 6 months, which has been difficult. But the family is moving down. Once the kids get out of school this summer, they're coming down. And my daughter, Brooklyn, my oldest,
awesome.
is actually coming back with me, next week when I fly back there. So she's going to get a head start on everybody kind of acclimating to the new country.
Gotcha. That's awesome. So, folks, we're hanging out with Josiah Graves, the COO of MVP Poker. MVPpoker.com, as you've heard, is the website. You can check out Josiah. He's got 2 accounts on Instagram, at 615JAG and at Right Way Health Coverage, as well as you can keep up with MVP Poker on Instagram, at MVP Poker Live, right? So, man, your wife is a superhero. She's awesome. We love her.
Yeah.
And big shout out to Taylor, and proud to call her a friend as well. Right. So I was curious how you guys are going to do that. And now you said you retired from health insurance. You still have your agency, yes?
That's correct.
So you're still serving and growing your agency. When you say you retired, you just retired from leadership, and in that model,
Yep.
you help recruit new agents and invest and train them, right? So you're no longer doing that. You're focused on your business, your clients, and the growth of MVP Poker.
That's exactly right. So I'm still doing the health insurance thing, and I'm super grateful for that.
Absolutely.
Because even though I kind of wrapped up the leadership chapter of that career, financially, I would never have even been able to pursue this opportunity without that, without that decade in that career, because I built up a book of business, right, that has allowed me to stay financially stable, supporting myself in Costa Rica and my family back here in the States.
Yeah.
During a time where I'm not getting paid by MVP, right? We literally just had a board meeting last week where we voted on salaries starting for the executive team in April. So for 6 months, I've been putting out on this with no income from it.
Yeah.
And I literally could not have done that.
That's right.
Without the blessing of my health insurance career. So I'm absolutely maintaining my existing book. I still get a lot of referrals, and I still serve those clients, and still have a huge passion for that.
Some people will look at, when you finish something. Deion Sanders said it so beautifully when he talked about going from Jackson State to University of Colorado. He said, guys, I go where God tells me to go. I go where God leads me. And I did what I said I was going to do, and now it's on to the next chapter, right? So there's nothing ever like, sometimes we can make feelings about certain things that aren't true. They're just feelings, they're not facts, right? So, and again, like, we did a very similar move at the turn of the year, and quite honestly, it's been refreshing because we spent so much time focusing on the other agents and their agencies and so on and so forth. It's been awesome to really dial in and focus even more on our personal clients. We love it, man. And again, folks, the insurance space is a great place to launch just about anything, because if you build it right, it pays and it keeps paying. I think I read not long ago that the insurance industry has created more millionaires than any other industry on the planet. Yeah,
it's got to be true. It's got to be true.
I love it.
Thankful for that foundation.
Yeah. Now, folks, check it out. He's doing his dream job. However, like, I played baseball my whole life for over 2 decades before I ever made $1 doing it, right? He served and worked his tail off in an insurance industry before he was even the opportunity presented itself. And, a lot of opportunities came along that we weren't able to mess around with or work with because we hadn't grown it enough. Everything's earned, man, right? So everything's earned.
So true.
So it's a great life lesson that, like, 10 years might seem like an eternity. And in some cases it is. However, like, the difference between 30 and 40 ain't that big of a deal. You know what I mean? It's just not.
No. I always go back to you ever seen the movie Where the Red Fern Grows?
Oh, not in a long time.
Oh my gosh. That was back when movies like really had a solid moral behind them, right? And that has stuck with me since I was very young. There's the kid wants 2 hunting dogs, hound dogs. Like, that's the thing that he wants more than anything in the whole world. And he goes to his grandpa's shop, and his grandpa's kind of that old word of wisdom, to him. And he says, Grandpa, I've prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed for these dogs, and God just ain't giving them to me.
Yeah.
And his grandpa said, well, have you met God halfway? He's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, you can't just pray and expect God to drop things in your lap. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the effort.
Yeah.
He said, usually when you do that, God will meet you the other half. And that's shown up as so true in my life just over and over and over again. And I always remind myself not just to pray and ask for, I don't expect God to be a gumball machine, right?
Yeah.
I want to do everything I could do to put myself in position to be ready for whatever opportunities he puts in front of me, right? And I don't know if I hadn't followed his lead and done that move of retiring from leadership back in June, this opportunity probably wouldn't have ever crossed my path. And if it did, I might have still been so tied up that I wouldn't have even been able to think about taking it.
I love it. I love it. So, well, let's take the folks back a little bit because I know you had a career in TV. I know that you owned a landscaping company, and I know that led you to get it. We started in health insurance the same year. Mm-hmm. And it's 10 years ago this year, right?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
We were in like the same class, if this was like a grade, you know what I'm saying, which is really awesome.
Yep.
And I remember one of the things that stands out to me about you, besides how like you're really good with money, you've learned a lot about money, but more importantly, like one of the biggest things is like, starting an agency in the insurance space is not easy, and it was so much harder 10 years ago.
Yep.
And you had I honestly learned a lot about goal setting and how to accomplish things by watching you, because one of the first things you wanted to do was it buy the ring or was it retire your wife, get your wife home? Which one? What do you remember? Which one it was first? But either way, they're both valid. But like, and I watched you do those things.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
It was retire my wife. My wife and I started dating when we were 16. We got married when we were 19, which was, I think, 4 years before the time period that you're talking about when we started in insurance. And that, I have all these big dreams, right? I want islands and planes, and, I want to leave a big dent in the world. And she's a lot simpler. Her one big, hairy, audacious dream was just to be a stay-at-home mom, because she felt like being a mom was what she was put on this earth to do. And she was a nurse at the time. Right. So it wasn't just having to replace a burger flipper's, salary. It was having to replace a nurse's salary, which, like you said, is hard to do when you're starting out in insurance business.
That's right.
And so I put that ahead of all of my own goals. And 8 months in to the insurance gig, we stepped her down from full-time to part-time. And then a year later, we had our second kid, and it was going so well that we let her take extra time off after having the baby, which was really great. And then she went back just 1 day a week. That carried on for about 4 more months before we were like, okay, this is ridiculous, right? And you were there. I think you and Rhiannon were at the sales meeting.
We sure were.
Where I had her come in to a Friday sales meeting. She had no idea why she was there. And we were able to bring her up in front of the whole team and tell her, as a team, you can go quit your job right now, which was just an incredible, that was the first mountaintop moment.
It was a great day, and it's just a great testament about all the things that happen at USHA when it comes to that stuff, because it was like the whole office was proud and excited, and even for me, it was like, that's how you do it. Like, it's just one milestone at a time. And then it was those real life examples that really like made me understand the model, how they put milestones in place and how to measure things and how to count things and how to measure what mattered and all that type of stuff. So the journey and the learning from that was just like the greatest gift that was ever given to me was when I got introduced to those guys, Andy, and they offered me a spot. You know what I'm saying? Because I probably didn't deserve it at the time.
No, I couldn't agree more, man. Same thing. I look back on all of that and everything that I learned. I owe my passion for reading, for self-development, to Andy and Tarina.
Yep.
They are the ones who instilled that in me, and that has had a huge influence on me over the last 10 years. I'm sure it's the same for you. Just constantly reading, and growing. just the whole personal development journey
Absolutely.
really got kicked off through that career.
I agree.
And I don't think if I hadn't had all of the experiences and everything I had in my landscape company from when I was 13 to 23, or in my TV career, or the health insurance career, I don't think if I was lacking any one of those things, I would have been ready for what I'm doing right now.
That's right. That's right. So, folks, check it out. In his health insurance career too, in those 10 years, he was a 2-time national award winner. Right. So, winning is a habit, as we say.
Yeah, it was awesome, and that company really rolls out the red carpet.
Yeah,
as you know, for their top performers, right?
Holy cow,
right?
Do they? That's right.
You've got more council awards than I do, and so you've been on those trips, right? And they really celebrate, those top performers and make them feel appreciated. And that was something that's a culture that has stuck with me so deeply.
Absolutely.
That I want to make sure that I instill that culture in any organization that I build myself.
Absolutely. They really do. And obviously I like the competitive factor, but like coming from the sports background, it was all about team.
Yes.
It was all about team. And how a house divided will not stand. So like it was super important that everybody was singing the same, as they say in church world, they were singing the same hymn at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was fantastic. So, let me see. What were a couple things that stood out, like top 2 things that you learned landscaping that you carried with you forward, top 2 things that you learned out of television that you learned that you took forward, and then you kind of mentioned some of the stuff about the health insurance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So my landscaping career, the number one thing that I took from that, and it's funny because I tell my the other leaders that I work with at MVP this all the time. Mm-hmm. The number one thing that I took out of the landscape industry that I had to learn the hard way was my butt does not need to be the one that's glued to the mower. Because obviously when you're 13 years old and you start cutting grass, it's just you. And later on, around the time I was 18, I started scaling to where I had crews and I had foremen, and I was trying to get off of the mowing crew. And when you've been doing it yourself all those years, that is so hard to do. Mm-hmm. So when I'm looking at an organization like what I've done with MVP, it's really easy to say, well, I can do that and I can do that. I can manage the floor, so I don't need to worry about hiring and training supervisors right now and stuff like that. Because of that experience in the landscape industry, I have made sure that I do not repeat those mistakes. So I was like, no, from day one, I need to have a leadership structure in here. Might be a little rough for a couple of months, right, as they get trained up and everything.
Yeah.
But those responsibilities will be on them, not on me.
That's right.
Right? I've got to build a structure so that I can scale. Otherwise, I will always be the bottleneck, and I don't want to ever be the bottleneck. So that was the number one thing I took out of the landscape industry. I guess you asked for 2 things. The other thing was how to handle investment capital, right? How to figure out, okay, I've got this much that I can invest back into the company. What should I invest in, right? And I got to make sure that those are all things that are going to make me money, right?
And this ain't like, I can remember when our first marketing budget with insurance agent, it was like, we can spend $200 a month.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
We're talking money with multiple commas here. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, go on.
Exactly. So again, like it's that whole, he who is faithful with little will be given much, right? If I didn't have that experience with the $200 marketing budget, right, I wouldn't know what to do with a $200,000 or whatever size budget.
Yep.
Right. So you look back and you just see how things prepared you for what you're doing now. In the TV career, I learned a lot about ivory tower syndrome.
Okay.
And what I mean by ivory tower syndrome is the people who were given the orders there and putting me on assignments as photographer, as an editor or whatever, had never spent a day in the field. And that causes a lot of problems in an organization, right?
Yes,
because
it does.
like you're literally asking me to do something that if you had ever been in the field, you would know literally is not possible in the confines of, space and time, right? but you don't know that because you've never had that experience, right?
It's like taking recipe advice from somebody who's never cooked anything before.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That's what it feels like, right? And so that's an issue. And so as I carried forward in building my own, and that was one of the best things about the health insurance business is they didn't build it that way. It didn't matter who you were. You had to start as an individual producer.
That's right.
Before you could move up to field training agent, before you could move up to sales leader, et cetera, right?
That's right.
So that's why they did it. And I see the wisdom in that, right? Because of what I went through at the TV station.
It was hard to see it in the moment, though, wasn't it?
Yes.
I know I didn't see that either.
Yes, exactly. So, and then the second thing that came out of TV career for me was problem solving. Because I very much got thrown to the wolves when I transitioned from editor to photographer. I didn't get a lot of training. I didn't get a lot of hand holding. And when I say training, I don't mean training on how to shoot video. Like I already knew all of that, but like how to set up a microwave live shot, or how to deal with certain situations out in the field that I had no reality on, no experience with, right?
You got to deal with weather and all kinds of stuff.
Oh my gosh, man. So many things that I literally just had to go to the School of Hard Knocks for.
Yeah.
And that really instilled in me the, I guess the gumption, for lack of a better term, to like look at a really hard challenge and realize, look, nobody's coming to save me. I have to figure this out. So that was one of the best things that came out of news, for me was just that problem solving, and that like it didn't matter how difficult this thing in front of me right now was. I knew I had to work the problem and figure it out.
Yeah.
And it also built my confidence because the thing was that I always did figure it out.
Gotcha.
And so I learned something about myself. I can solve really hard problems if I'm put in a situation where I literally don't have a choice.
That's right.
So
that's right. Folks, once again, we're with Josiah Graves, the COO of MVP Poker, and with Right Way Health Coverage. We're having a good old time today, catching up on a lot of stuff. You recently said a few moments ago that you guys were going to be relocating to Costa Rica, right? So I want to talk about that, the journey, right? So obviously, like you're in a partnership because you're married to your wife. You guys have 4 kids, so you no longer. We're still playing man-to-man defense at my house. You know what I'm saying? You guys are playing a zone.
Yep, that couldn't be more true.
And so a lot going on, and there's schools, there's relationships, there's friendships. All these things are happening, and you said that you guys were going to be relocating there at the end of the school year this year, right, in the summertime. So, walk me through kind of like how you guys got there, right? I'm so fascinated with this because this is literally a life-changing decision. And this is about as life-changing as it gets, to uproot everything and move to an entire other country.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure they'll roast me for that if I'm not correct. Costa Rica is yet another country, right? I'm just going to confirm that.
Absolutely it is. It's a Central American country. It's
perfect. Perfect. Yeah. I love it. I've never spent any real time there, but like I just they get me on that stuff, man. They'll burn me on that if I get that wrong. So make sure I got that right. That was for you guys. So all right, walk us through that process just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been down there for 6 months, kind of laying the groundwork, and we're talking about the family dynamic. My wife has grown majorly through this. She's done some very difficult things, taking care of a household here and 4 kids and everything, basically, as a single parent.
Yeah.
So that I can chase this dream. And needless to say, I would not be able to be doing this without her support and her just ability to take that mantle on, and she knew it was going to be hard. And she tells me all the time, she's like, this is so hard, but she doesn't stop doing it. She doesn't quit.
It's temporary.
Exactly. Right. And that's kind of what we're all holding on to right now. Right. It's just, there's a lot of things that are just kind of in survival mode right now. So I'm so thankful for her support and her just bearing up under this, but it has been really difficult. Raising 4 kids, including a baby, without dad around, full time is hard. So
how old are all your kids now?
Brooklyn, the oldest, is 10, Asen is 8, Juliet is 4, and Atlas just turned 9 months.
Wow.
Yep. So we've covered the whole, girl, boy. We got about every age group in there.
When you say she's handling stuff, folks, ours is right at the 2-year-old mark, and today as we shoot this episode, and or a couple weeks prior, dude, like she's everywhere right now. I mean, it's like, and she's running like that's. So it's like where it like just blink an eye and she's gone, like she's somewhere else in the house.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So and in everything. As a matter of fact, when I left this morning, there was probably about 40 makeup brushes that were in the bathtub because that's where you put them, right?
Right.
That's what she likes to do.
This is how somebody thinks that, right?
That's what she likes to do.
Yep.
There's a lot of single parents out there. There's a lot of people going through tough times. So. How have you guys, like, you can't even like hug each other's neck and be there for each other that way. You've had to do it through technology and whatnot, right? So,
Yep.
What were some of the ways that you guys have been able to get through those things and making sure that you focused on your faith more than your problems?
Yeah. So we do a video call pretty much every night. The kids will call me, from Taylor's phone on a video call, like right before bedtime. Usually around 7:30. That happens most nights of the week, unless there's something crazy going on, at the office or whatever. So pretty much every night I get to check in on the kids, see how their day was, tell them good night, all of those types of things. So that helps it not feel like quite such a distance. Obviously, Taylor and I still talk all day, every day about whatever comes up, whatever we need to talk about. But you're right. The physical separation does wear on you. And there's no medicine for that. There's no solution for that. It's just some things just suck, and you just have to try to put that in its own box and know that it's not going to be that way forever.
Sacrificing what you want today for what you want for all the tomorrows, right?
Exactly. Couldn't have possibly said it better. And that's really why we do things like this, right? Because, and I've told my kids, I want them to have an example from this, right? And I've told my older kids, I'm like, look, the fact that we hardly see each other now is going to ensure that in the not too distant future, there's never a time that we're apart again. So just like you said, it's sacrificing what you're right now for, the long term.
For all those tomorrows, man.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, honestly, man, leading by example, that's awesome for you guys. I know it hadn't been hard. There's been probably days that it didn't seem worth it. Like, that's just a part of the journey, man. That's just a part of the journey. And look, one of the things I'm figuring out is as you get older, especially as each decade passes, a lot of things are harder than they used to be. You know what I'm saying? Like just freaking putting on socks some days sucks. But boy, it's way better when you have them on and you can go, right? Now, some people are going to be like, I don't think Nick wears socks. No, Nick does. We grew out of that, right? So it's just the kind you can't see. But yeah, man, it's so imperative that you focus on. Remember, that's like you said, like you hear all the time. The windshield is so much bigger than the rearview mirror, man. So you guys have to focus on the future, and know that what we're going through today is just, it's only as temporary as we make it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I just kind of have to bury it, not in an unhealthy way, but like you just said, you've got the windshield, you've got the rearview mirror, and I just try to make sure that at least 90% of my focus is on the windshield.
That's right.
And that's really the only way you can get through something like that, And Thanksgiving sucked. I wasn't here for Thanksgiving. I knew my family was all together celebrating Thanksgiving, and I just I remember leaning up against the wall. I was the only one at the office at the time that day, and just melting, just breaking down. And I'm not an emotional person. I don't cry a whole lot.
Your birthday was spent without family, right?
Yeah. Birthday was spent without family too. And those are the hardest days. The days where you really just, your soul knows you're supposed to be with them and you're not. It hurts.
Well, and it sounds like too that that your partners, your friends in this journey, they understand and appreciate it, because every time I talk to you, you're just, when it comes to the professional part of your life, you're as excited and as happy as I've ever seen you, man. So it's good. It's great to be surrounded by people like that.
Oh, absolutely. I can't say enough about the people that I work with. Bryce, the CEO, him and I developed such a great working relationship so quickly. We both have said to each other, like, I really appreciate this. I want you to know that I really appreciate this relationship, because every time we talk, I feel better.
Yeah.
If I was worried about something, our meetings are short and concise because there's not friction, there's not pushback. Everybody's on the same page. No, there's no like ego. And then same thing with Trey, our CFO. We're just like, every time we all get together to do something, we get it done.
Yeah.
We get it done quickly. There's no infighting. It's great. And then my executive assistant, Evelyn, I tell people, I'm like, you've got your right hand, right? And then whatever the notch is above your right hand, right? That's what Evelyn is. Like, she is absolutely whatever a notch above my right hand is, man. She is the absolute best executive assistant I have ever had. And I've had some good ones, and she just, like, I'm here right now and I'm not the least bit worried about what is going on the ground there, because I know she's got it all completely under control. She's on top of all of it. Same thing. We work together super cohesively. So I'm just incredibly grateful for her, because I could not have gotten done what I've gotten done over the past 6 months without her help and support.
There's one of my favorite things that you can check out online is talking about the Navy SEALs and how they measure on two factors, performance and trust, and how they would rather have somebody that's high trust and medium performance than low trust and high performance, because high performance, low trust is toxic to a team environment, versus somebody that's high trust, who you literally just described, right?
Absolutely. Yes, have high trust with every single one of those people. That's Jocko. Is that Jocko?
Man, I've heard so Simon Sinek's, I've heard him talk about it.
Yeah.
I've heard a few of them, yes. But yeah, it's and that's the highest performing organization on the planet, right?
Yeah. Yeah, could definitely make that argument.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. So we're here with Josiah Graves, the COO of MVP Poker, and we're talking about. So folks, you can understand, like, you got to know who it is that you buy from, that you do business with, what the companies stand for. Everybody knows about Chick-fil-A and why they're closed on Sundays, right? And how that is what their company's about and falls in their company line. Like, folks, you're getting to hear it firsthand about like what the founders group at MVP Poker are all about. I can't think of anybody else that, if I was going to be spending my hard-earned money on a poker product like this, or a poker company, somebody I'd want to do business with, right? It's so important, and that was what attracted me to USHA back in the day. Was the family environment and the founders, man. They were incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because we really are a group of good people. Exactly like what you're talking about.
In an industry that's not always that way, I'd imagine.
Exactly. You would expect, people put poker and gambling in the same, stratosphere, right? Which, to us who are really into poker, we don't believe that it's gambling. To us, it really is a game of skill. People are like, well, you could lose your money. I'm like, well, you could buy into a PGA tournament for $10,000 and not perform well enough and lose your $10,000, right? Is that gambling? Why is PGA not gambling? Right? To me, it's the same thing.
Driving to work is a gamble at the end of the day.
Right. Exactly. So, gambling, game of skill, but most people put those things together in the same bucket. And you would expect people running a poker company to be like sleazy, and gray area, if not darker, and stuff like that. And there definitely are organizations out there like that. That's not who we are. That's not who our co-founders are. That's not who our current executive team. When we say where integrity plays, we take that very seriously. And I remind my staff all the time, guys, what is integrity? Integrity is doing the right thing, no matter if anybody's looking or not, right? Even when nobody's looking. So we take that very seriously. It's not a cute thing. It's not just a cute thing that we say, just like the helping other people every day. That's at right. USHA. It was the same type of thing. It wasn't a cute marketable corporate slogan. You and me saw it at every single company event, how much giving back meant to the organization all the way up to the top.
That's right.
It's the same thing at this organization. You know, we are in the poker space, but we absolutely believe in the integrity, and it's woven into the fabric of everything that we do.
I can remember on an outing one time when they brought all the performers from the leaders of the country together. We were in, I guess it was Texas, is where we were at that time, and the company was, it still is, performing at top levels and breaking records and all this stuff. And with that, a lot of the people that helped build it were, when it came, were economically on the rise, if not like way high up there, right?
Yes.
So, and he and Troy had us basically meet at this spot. We got on buses, went out, and we were going to be picking up trash for an entire afternoon along highways and such. These are millionaires,
Yep.
like, that are out there picking up garbage.
Yep.
And some of the highest performing people in that whole entire industry. And it was because that was what the company, like, it's so important to remember the foundation of which your company was built from, and that it's all about giving back and what you can do for others. And it was such a, I don't know, I guess you could call it subtle. It definitely wasn't subtle, but it was awesome, and everybody absolutely loved it. It's all those little type things like that really stand out to me when it comes to a company and its culture, and just staying focused on the mission from which it was founded.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the most important ways that any company or organization can really differentiate themselves from their competition is by getting out there and serving and being just being above board, you know, not hiding in some dark back room, but just getting out there and being above board and letting people know, hey, this isn't just something we say we believe. This is something we really actually believe and practice. And, you know, if you do that well and you do it consistently, you will absolutely stand apart from all the other, you know, organizations that don't do that. And there are a lot more that don't than do.
That's right. So one of the coolest things about hosting a show like this is, you know, we have all this prep. If you're watching, you can kind of see I'm always writing and making notes, and I've got all these things about the guest and some interview topics and questions. And, you know, and I always try to do my best to make sure I get through all of the topics and questions because it's coming from both sides. But then we get off telling stories and having a good time. And sometimes old Nick forgets to bring it back there, right? So I'm going to get back to my sheet for a second here. And so I've got here, first of all, let's just talk about like the great country of what we learned that Nick knows now that Costa Rica is indeed a country. I think I knew that. I just wanted to be sure.
Nailed it.
We'll go with that. We'll go with that. But I've got on here that I just want to talk about some of the experiences in Costa Rica that you've experienced since you've been. It's been 6 months, right, since you've been there basically every day.
Yes, sir.
And that's where your family's going to be relocating to. So, hey, folks, I'm glad I got a friend in Costa Rica because we're going to be vacationing there from time to time. That's awesome.
Hey, man, obviously I get really homesick. So, like, in all seriousness, if you want to come down and visit, please come visit because it's a little taste of home.
That's right.
Having friends there would be, you know, just means the world to me. So absolutely hit me up when you want to do that. But as far as Costa Rica goes, I've got a fun little series running on my TikTok right now. It's, you know, you just go and like consistently posting TikTok stuff, just whatever comes to mind just for fun, right? And I was trying to learn how to organically grow a TikTok account so that I could help grow MVP's TikTok account. So I was using my own kind of as the guinea pig.
That's how it works.
And my first video that blew up by my standards, right,
Sure,
on TikTok was one of those Costa Rica videos. And the series is the craziest things I've seen while living in Costa Rica.
I saw the on-ramp one was my favorite.
Yeah, that's the one that blew up. It was part 2.
Gotcha.
Right? It's got 40-something thousand views now and like over 1,000 likes. And I have like 200 followers. So
that's legit, man.
that's a huge reach for not a lot of followers.
What's your
right?
TikTok handle?
It's at 615jag.
Just like the Instagram.
Just like the Instagram,
Perfect.
exactly. So, but anyway, so I've addressed a lot of these Costa Rica things in those videos, but the best things about being there are the people, the food, and the weather.
Oh yeah.
The weather is like they don't have spring, summer, winter, fall. They have the summer and they have the rainy season.
Gotcha.
Right? Which is basically just the summer with extra rain. Right?
Gotcha.
Those are their 2 seasons.
So, like, describe the rainy season to me, because I don't know. Is it like just nonstop rain, or is it just rain every day in spurts?
Yeah, so most of it is like the morning will be nice, and then usually by like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's raining. And it'll do that for 3 or 4 days, and sometimes 4 or 5 days, and then it'll clear up, for a day or two, and then it'll go back to that.
Gotcha.
So it's not like just constant rain, but it definitely is noticeably more rain. But the temperature's like 65 to 75. Like that's the 10-degree swing in Costa Rica. It's beautiful. It's like the coolest it gets is 65. I don't have to think about what I'm wearing every day.
Yep.
Right? Like what I'm wearing right now is what I wear to the office every day, and I don't even have to worry about if it's going to be cold because I know it's not. And it doesn't matter what part of the year. So right now it's summer, and still we're playing around in that 65 to 75 range. Right? Yesterday I think it was 73 there. Right? I've seen it get over 80 a couple times, but nothing crazy.
Gotcha.
It's absolutely gorgeous. So the weather is awesome. The food is like top notch. I love the food there, and you can get seafood for cheap because obviously it's easily sourced down there. And then the people, man. I mean, the first inkling I got of that was my birthday was about a month after I had gotten there, and my assistant Evelyn, which I talked about earlier, she organized with her whole friend group to meet at the pool at my apartment complex on that Sunday, and they threw me a birthday party. And they had a cake made. It was nice cake, like with like poker chips and playing cards, like the poker themed cake.
That's awesome.
And they grilled like fajitas and stuff, and I'm just like, I was floored all day that day because I was like, I met most of these people in the last couple of weeks.
Right.
So I met these people in the last couple of weeks, and they just gave up their whole Sunday to celebrate my birthday.
Wow.
Why? I didn't do anything to deserve that. They just did that because they're super warm, inviting, welcoming people. And that's been my experience with the people down there, man. So those are all great things.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So
fantastic. I have on here, one of my notes is the $1 billion check. Do tell.
Yeah, the $1 billion check. So back in 2018, I was a field sales leader, U.S. Health Advisors. That was one of the years that we won the council award. I think I had a team of about 70 agents. And we used to have a thing in our Friday meetings called the Vibe. And it was just kind of like we would select one of the leaders on our leadership team to do the Vibe that week. And we would select them at the beginning of the week so that they had some time to prepare, right? And you know me, I can't halfway anything.
That's right.
It doesn't matter how insignificant. I just don't have the gene that allows me to halfway anything.
Halfway ain't the right way, is it?
No, I can't do it. I just can't. There are times that I should, and I still can't. So I did this huge like production Vibe that had video involved in it and all that kind of stuff. I made a motivational video and played that for the group, and I talked about that clip that most of us have seen 100 times of Jim Carrey saying that he wrote himself a $10 million check for acting services rendered, and he was one of those struggling actors that was like living under a bridge at the time, right, basically. And he kept it with him, and he said it was in his wallet, and it kind of deteriorated and frayed and all of that. And he said right before the date he had put on that check was about to pass, he got the call saying that he was going to get paid a little over $10 million to do Dumb and Dumber. And it's a very well-known video clip, right? If you're into the motivational type stuff. And so I talked to the team about that, and I said, right here in front of you guys, I'm going to do the exact same thing for myself, and I hope this inspires somebody to do the same thing for you. But I said, 10 million just seems like too small a number. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, it needs to be a much bigger goal, right? So I put $1 billion on there, and I dated it for my 50th birthday, which at the time that was giving me 20 years to get it done. And I still have that check, and I think about that goal every single day. And I'm like, I will not be able to stop pursuing it until I've either come up short of it or I've hit it.
That's awesome, man. Love that. Love that. Well, that's a great lead into. I want to hear about your philosophy. I mentioned earlier, I was like, you've always been somebody that impressed me with your discipline and like just intuitive nature about money. You started studying it before, like you can on Instagram and TikTok today. All you hear is people talking about HELOCs, right? So home equity lines of credit. It's something that we agree with a lot. But I actually, you were one of the first people that really kind of got on board with that. And I just remember studying and learning. It took me a long time to understand what in the hell a HELOC was.
Right.
I was like, well, is it locked? Is it unlocked? I don't know.
Sure,
Like, didn't know it was an acronym at the time, right? So,
right.
I'd love to hear your philosophy on money, hustle, and success, and kind of how they all work together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So just kind of my overarching philosophy on all of that is, I've really adopted what Grant Cardone says. Which is that success is your duty, your obligation, and your responsibility. And it's not about materialism. It's not about money from a greed standpoint.
Right.
Everything having to do with success and wealth and all of that for me personally goes back to security for my family. And I don't ever want to have to look at my family in the midst of an economic crisis or anything at all that challenges my family and say, sorry guys, I didn't plan for this. I don't know how I'm going to protect you from this. So I've always felt that it was my duty, responsibility, and obligation to be successful so that I can secure my family. That's absolutely number one. Money is a tool, right?
That's right.
And it bothers me when I see people on social media and they're like, money never bought 1 second of extra time. I saw this on one of my friends' feeds just a couple of weeks ago. And that's one of those moments that I literally have to bite my tongue, right? I'm like, because money is actually the thing that allows you to be able to decide how you're going to spend your time.
I agree.
Because if you don't have money, you don't get to decide how you're going to spend your time.
That's right.
If you have an abundance of money, you can spend your time doing whatever you want because you don't have to be doing something chasing after money so you can pay your next round of bills.
Here's a great example of that because I agree with you 100%. And I'm going to use myself as the example. I used to love cutting my grass. It was therapeutic for me. But as my son was getting older and schedules got busier, that 2 hours I spent in the yard every day, the $40 that I paid the company to come mow it bought me 2 hours with my son that I did not have.
Exactly.
Right. So, we say all that time, money is a tool. I think it just amplifies who you are. If you're a great person, it makes you a greater person. If you're a bad person, it makes you a worse person. Right.
Absolutely. Right. And so just going back to philosophy on money, I think what I realized very early on, as a young business owner, is money is a lot like having cattle. Right? So if you have 2 cows, that's all you need to be able to make more cows, right? Well, 99% of our society, unfortunately, is just like, I want filet now, I want steak now, so I'm going to butcher one of those cows, right? And the people who really become successful over the long term say, I'm going to forego the steak right now, I'm going to breed those cows, I'm going to let them have baby cows. And then when the baby cows are born and I have an abundance of them and they grow up to the age where I can butcher one, then I'll have my steak. And that's the difference. People just spend or butcher, right, those cows without giving them a chance to have babies first. And so I try to make sure that if I'm spending money on something that I want or that's not going to make me more money, that I'm doing it out of the babies, right, that my money had.
That's right.
And not out of the parent money, right, or the investment capital. So, and I try to make sure that the bulk of the money that I'm putting wherever I'm putting it is going into something that is going to have babies rather than just going to get slaughtered, provide a steak, for a night, right, and then it's done.
Folks, one thing we hadn't mentioned before is, because you're probably like, man, that makes a lot of sense. This dude is not only the COO of MVP Poker and running his agency Right Way Health Coverage, but he still messes around in real estate just a little bit, right?
Yep, very true. So back in 2020, another good friend of mine, his name's Brian, called me up and he was like, hey, I'm wanting to start getting into some real estate investing. I know you're into that. You know, I had several rental properties at the time, just kind of on the side. And he was like, I don't have the financial resources to make these deals happen, but he said, I have the time to find the deals. And I said, well, that's perfect because I have the resources to make the deals happen, but I don't have the time to find the deals because I was running that team full time, right? I mean, I always made sure all of my focus was on that team.
Absolutely.
So anything else I was investing in or a part of had to be passive, right? Or mostly passive. And so we were like, well, this is a match made in heaven. So we founded Right Way Ventures in September of 2020. And we just do, investment deals through that. So we've got some rental properties. We bought some commercial land, that we ended up selling for, I think, about 4 times what we paid for it. And just little things like that, And so we've been doing those deals for, I guess, going on 3 years now as well.
Fantastic.
Love real estate. Real estate's
Absolutely.
a great place to put money.
Absolutely.
When you make it other places, it's better than a savings account, that's for sure.
So, what's the future of MVP Poker? What's next and what's the future?
It's a great question. I wish I knew. So what it looks like right now, we just landed a huge scaling deal. So basically the short story of what happened is one of our brand ambassadors ran into a connection at a poker tournament recently. And this connection does all of the payment processing for the WSOP. Mm-hmm. So he was like, well, that sounds like a good, WSOP is World Series of Poker for anybody who's not a, poker enthusiast. And he was like, well, that sounds like a good connection. So he hooked them up with Bryce, our CEO, and they started talking. And turns out this billionaire that owns this payment processing company is like really good friends with Mark Wahlberg, and like neighbors with Phil Ivey. And so this meeting literally started off on the foot of, hey, Mark Wahlberg is interested.
Wow.
In MVP, and Phil Ivey is interested. And so they were like, that being said, how many tables do you guys have? And we're like, well, we've got like 10 in-house right now. Obviously we have plans in place to scale as those get filled and demand goes up and, all of our marketing really gets to working. And they were like, yeah, see, that's the thing. 10's not enough. They're like, you need 100.
That's right.
And you need 100 fast. And we're like, well, we're definitely not opposed to that, So then they were like, well, what would $2 million do for you? And so we're like, okay, cool. So I ran all the numbers and we were like, we could do it, but scale up to that with 2 million, but it'd be tight. So a $2 million conversation turned into a $5 million conversation.
That's awesome.
And so we just had a board meeting last week, and voted on all of this stuff involving that deal. And that's why I can talk about it now because it's actually been voted on and all that kind of stuff. So
cool.
So now we've got a couple of phases ahead of us. So
Fantastic.
Phase 1, that money's supposed to hit this week. So phase 1 is going to be maxing out our current warehouse, which can hold 39 tables. I've already got infrastructure work going on there to prepare for that. So we're going to get up to 39 tables by the time the WSOP happens in June, because we're going to have a table at the WSOP. So we got to have 39 tables rolling. And then once that's done, phase 2 is going to be me finding more space for us to scale to 100 tables in. And then I'll be working on scaling that while the 39 tables in the other location are running. And eventually we'll move it all, in one big facility. So those are the most immediate things that are right ahead. But I mean, this is, I told Bryce, I feel like we're a punk rock band and we just got a record deal.
That's right.
That's what it feels like. It's like we just got our big break. We put all the blood, sweat, and tears in. We got launched. We got out there. And now big players are starting to notice and wanting to get involved, which is really exciting. And they're telling us that that particular investor is telling us that we we'll have a $3 billion valuation inside of 12 months on this track. And that's just surreal for me because I'm 34 years old. It's kind of like, how did I get here again? I'm COO of this company. Okay, that's one thing. But now I'm being told that company is going to be worth $3 billion in 12 months.
That's right.
It's just like I said earlier, it's got God's fingerprints all over it.
Come on.
And the only part of all of this falling the way that it did that I can take credit for is being willing to move when he asked me to.
And having support at home.
Absolutely.
To allow you to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Man, that's awesome. That is that's fantastic. So all the folks that are wanting to play with MVP Poker, they just go to mvppoker.com, right?
Yep, mvppoker.com, and I think up in the top right corner it says Play Now. That'll take you over to our apps. If you want to skip that step and just go directly to the web app, it's app@mvppoker.com. You're going to have the best experience on that on a computer, on a web browser. And then we also have an Android app. So if you have an Android device and you want to play on an Android app, you can download that there from that same tab under the website. There's a link to the Android app. You can download it. It's pretty simple. We've got our whole deposit process super streamlined. It's quick now. And you're going to be helping us make that even better.
That's right.
Which is awesome. We've got a bonus program out now. That took us a minute to get all of the programming and everything, the development done to put that in place. But that's done and that's live now. So now you can get matches on deposits from $200 all the way up to $1,000. Going through that bonus program on your first deposit. So
fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic. Well, brother, I'm extremely proud of you guys. Man, what a story! What an absolute story, and it's still being written. You're still in the beginning chapters of this story. Yet it's like such a great read, and there's so much in it up to this point. So much context, right? So I can't thank you enough for hanging with me today. Is there any final thoughts or anything else you want to leave everybody with?
I think we've pretty much covered all the main stuff, man. It's just I would encourage anybody that's listening to this to do a gut check on yourself and ask, am I willing to take a big opportunity if it comes along? Because the 99% likes to hate on the 1% a lot. And what's not fair about that is that the 1% is willing to do stuff that the 99% isn't willing to do. And that's the reason there is that division there, right? So ask yourself, am I willing to do the things that the 1% is willing to do? And if you are, then start acting on those things and you're going to end up successful as well. You just have to be willing to do it. And it's an embrace the suck type of thing.
Yep.
But you got to sacrifice for what you want, or what you want becomes the sacrifice.
Couldn't think of a better way to bring this sucker to a close, man. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Once again, folks, we're hanging with the COO of MVP Poker, Josiah Graves. He's still helping folks out left and right with their health insurance. You can keep up with them on Instagram at Right Way Health Coverage. Once again, his personal Instagram is at 615JAG, as well as TikTok. And you can keep up with MVP Poker on Instagram at MVP Poker Live. Right? Did I leave anything out?
Nope. You hit it all, man. Thank you so much.
How cool is this?
You've created such an incredible thing here, and just to get to come in and share in it with you for a few minutes has been an absolute blessing. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate you and the team. Fist bump over there. They kick ass. I don't cuss on this thing very often, but they kick ass, right?
That deserved it. Yeah.
That's right. Folks, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of The Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.